So welcome to day 2 of the 5-day consciousness hacking challenge. Today we're doing a bit of a deep dive around sleep and recovery and exploring different metrics around sleep and recovery and why that's important. I'm here live with Steve and Michelle. Hey guys.
Hey.
And so for those watching the recording, it's great to have you here as well. And so we'll start by just doing a quick drop in as we did yesterday. It's called connecting to the moment. And I really love this as a practice because so much of life is pulling our attention outwards. And really, this is an opportunity to be interoceptive. And not only is it pulling our attention outwards, sorry, just letting Jan in. We don't effectively feel. And so this is a practice of not only feeling what energy is arising in the moment, but then also feeling what each other is feeling. So building compassion and empathy. And so we'll just do a few rounds. And so the invitation, good morning, Jan, as you join. The invitation is to share. Is everyone cool to do that? Yep. And so we'll close down our eyes and we're just bringing our attention inwards into what we feel. What's the energy that we're perceiving in this moment? And I'll start. So what is real for me in the moment is probably, again, some low level anxiousness. And so as opposed to trying to push against or trying to change that, we meet it. And the opportunity is for you guys to meet it with me until we feel it. And without going into a story around why it's there, we just feel it. We allow it. Anxiousness. And then we tune into this moment. Michelle, what are you feeling in this moment?
I'm feeling some peacefulness.
And so we meet that and we feel that. Again, without trying to hold on to or push against, we just meet it and feel it consciously. Then we tune into this moment. Steve, what are you feeling in this moment?
I'm feeling jittery.
And so we meet that. We feel that. Jittery. What are the qualities of jittery? Would you say that it's more contracted or expansive?
It's wanting to do both at the same time. So it's going
Both.
back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. Would you say it's more busy or more still?
Busy.
Busy. And so we feel that, we allow that. And again, without going into a story around why it's there, we just meet it consciously. And then tuning into this moment, I am feeling a sense of peace. And so we feel that peace. And again, without going into the story, we just feel it. We allow it. We meet it. And it's almost sometimes that you can feel it washing through. And then, Michelle, what are you feeling in this moment?
I'm feeling a sense of flatness.
So we feel that. What would you say if we dug a little deeper? What's the feeling underneath flatness? Is it more contracted or more still, or more expansive?
It is more contracted. It feels like a lack of enthusiasm,
Yeah.
lack of joy.
And so would you say that it's more busy or more
Yeah, it's not busy. It's empty.
empty? Yeah. So it's that contracted, empty feeling. And so let's
Mm.
feel that. And without putting a story around it, we just feel it. And then, Steve, what are you feeling in this moment?
Yeah, I'm feeling calm now.
Calm. And so we meet that, we feel that. We allow it. And then tuning into this moment, I'm feeling a sense of joy and bubbling up into excitement. And so the invitation is to feel that. We meet that. And Michelle, in this moment, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling a sense of ease.
And so we meet that and we feel that. And Steve, what are you feeling in this moment?
I'm feeling expansive.
Yeah. And so we feel that. And without going into the story and without trying to pull towards or push against, we just honor what is arising in the moment. And as we do that, whether individually or together, we drop in layer by layer. And most often, what was somewhat contracted and busy becomes expansive and still. And we find the self, the observer, that quiet space outside the busy mind. And in doing so, we tune into a sense of knowing, a sense of well-being, a sense of wholeness. And it's such a beautiful space to respond to life. And not only that, to know ourselves and to feel ourselves not as separate, but as whole and connected. And I really love this as a practice because it really, like I was talking about yesterday, it collapses the pattern, trigger, thought, emotion, behavior. And we get caught in these patterns of thinking, feeling, and behavior. And by focusing in on the moment and what we're feeling, it just can collapse that pattern and drop us into self. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow, but the trigger it doesn't take away the trigger. But what we'll explore tomorrow is how do we identify what the triggers are and how do we take those away? Because when we look at, the concept of consciousness hacking and becoming our best self, for me, this is the best self, that sense of connected and whole and a sense of confidence and knowing. And I had a colleague, one of my naturopaths that I work with, like I am connected, was saying, I want to get more out of this. Like, how do I optimize myself more? And she's like, well, one of the keys is to take off the handbrakes. Like, where are you holding unresolved emotional wounds that we can heal? And so that's put me in a deep dive down into healing journey, into learning a number of different modalities. And I have over the years, from Brandon Bay's journey work to access consciousness to more recently internal family systems. And a lot of these are fundamentally, you can group them into inner child work. And there's so much of the personal development industry that's, have us focusing on the positive. And I think that's important, but not to the exclusion of what's actually underlying. And so we'll talk about it more tomorrow, but how do we really know what's in our shadow, as it's called, in our unconscious, and how do we heal that so that we can just be more of that authentic self? And so meditation, we talked about yesterday. Personally, I feel like it's a key part. I feel like everybody should be doing it. Unless we take the time and sit each day and build a relationship with the mind and learn how to observe the mind, then essentially we are caught in that mind. And the mind is that conditioned response, that trigger, thought, emotion, behavior. We're just essentially slaves to the mind, slaves to our conditioning. And the importance of that is that our technology is becoming increasingly more sophisticated. When you look at where artificial intelligence is leading us, and algorithms and social media, these algorithms are learning us in ways that we can't even imagine at the depths. Like looking at Facebook, for example, their objective is to sell advertising. And in that, it's about knowing you and understanding you so that it can feed more effective advertising to you. And I was in an interview with Yuval Noah Harari and Mark Zuckerberg, and Yuval's suggesting, he's the author of Sapiens and Homo Deus, which I highly recommend reading if you haven't. And he suggested that these algorithms could put something in your feed, weeks or months out, and you'll think you've had an idea, but essentially it's influenced you. You think you've had that idea, but it's only because it's been planting stuff in your feed. And so at what point are we still sovereign? And so for me, it's like this becomes such important work to do, is to know ourselves not as that conditioning, and to be exploring, like, who are we outside of that conditioned narrative. And so one of the practices that we obviously talked about yesterday is meditation as a tool. Today, exploring sleep and recovery. It's challenging to be self if you don't have a meditation practice, because Qigong as well. Even though you're a Qigong practitioner, and I love Qigong. One of my dear friends has spent a number of years in China studying Qigong as well, and he's taught me a number of different sets. And that moving meditation is essentially, even if could you talk to Qigong,
Sure.
Steve?
I know it's a beautiful practice as well.
I think I find it's very holistic because you're using your body as well as your mind, but it's an easier access point for some people, so you're not sitting down just following your breath, etc. You're doing a mindful movement and you're drawing your mind through your body, and it gives a bit more of a grounding to that meditation. I call it moving meditation, but there's thousands of, it's like Chinese whispers, there's thousands of variations on a theme. And eventually, through my practice with various teachers for the last 20 years, you nail it down to what's the first principles of the Qigong stuff. So it comes down to breath and awareness, so it comes down to moving meditation, but it's a beautiful, easy practice. And there's many teachers out there, so it's very easy for people to find.
Yeah, beautiful. And my experience as well is like it does really drop you into the energy, drop you into that stillness. My friend gave me a manifestation set, which is pretty cool as well, where I used it to manifest things. So it's setting intentions as you're doing it. It's really powerful. Thanks for sharing, mate. Just wanted to jump in. I have a few slides I wanted to go through. Drop in on this challenge arena here. Thanks, Steve. I note your comment there. I'll reply. Appreciate you sharing. So this is where the recordings will be. There's also a resource section up here. This will be where historically all the recordings will be. But click it. As the replays for the people that have signed up as VIP, Michelle, Jen, there's a few others as well. There's a workbook in there. I'll go through that another time, but there's the replays. There's also a whole bunch of self-edgio terms that I hadn't made, which are like 4 or 5 hours long, and they're tones that resonate with each of the individual chakras. So it's a little gift to you all for being here. The High Performer's Guide to Transformative Tech. I think that's pretty cool. There's lots of different overview of the different technologies on the market and how we can use them to track different things. The map that I come up with yesterday, I'm going to talk to this in a moment. There's a copy of that in there for you. And then there's a couple, a phone, a screensaver. It's just a reminder of who we are outside of that conditioned story. Is so I call it I am. Some people call it the self, higher self, the observer, awareness, whatever works for you, God. But then, so there's a phone screensaver and a wallpaper. Just little gifts for you all, and that's accessible up there. And then, so this is the challenge arena. I'm going to do my best to encourage some of these guys to come and play. There's I know 35 people as part of this challenge. So we'll do what I can to get them activated. If you're watching this as a recording, please do help us to help you. Like, we're essentially creating this, well, we're co-creating this together. This week, these 5 days together, and so it does require us to participate. No one can do your meditation for you. No one can do the optimization stuff for you. So the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of this. And so, yeah, meditation. So this is an opportunity to just tune in and see how we're all going. In this, there's also like a 6-week, month-on-month comparison. And Valeria must have just heard me because she's jumping in there. So this is like what we measure, we can optimize. And so we're going to talk more about that with sleep, and even with meditation, what we're measuring. If we're measuring, what's the metric we're measuring? Even just taking the time to sit each day. Like, how many times did Troy sit last week? He sat 6. And we're sort of benchmarking against the community as well. And then we're looking at sleep and recovery today. But so this is most people are going to be relatively blank, but I'm just sort of sharing within the platform some of the functionality. And so we're able to sort of see a week on week, are you getting better? Are you getting better? Valeria, welcome. Hey, nice to have you here. So just a quick overview of a model that we're sort of working loosely around. And really, for me, the journey is to become more of that I am, more of that still aware presence that's outside of the conditioned mind, and to know ourselves more as that. And I feel like that's really important in the world that we're currently in that how fast technology is accelerating. If we are identified solely with the story in our head, then the world's going to be moving so fast over the next 20 years with the exponential technologies like artificial intelligence, like in the metaverse, and biotech, where it's all headed, that if we are only identified with the noise in our head, then we're going to suffer more than we already do, because the world's going to change so quickly. So for me, it's so important to find that wholeness, to find that stillness, and to know ourselves as that, and then play with the separation, to play with this form, this story of Troy, but not be solely identified with that. And so part of the journey that we take people on through I Am Connected is then a healing one, because a lot of what's happened to us in our adolescence will contract us into our story. Oh, this is the story of who I am. And so as we heal that, well, then we can be more of that self. And the little meditation we did at the beginning, which is then, collapsing those patterns and dropping into more of that expansive, still presence, healing can help with that. And so we'll drop more in on that tomorrow when we look at patterns. And so there's a lot being said about the present moment, the power of the present moment, but how do you be in the present moment? And so that exercise, again, we did at the beginning, of connecting to the moment and feeling what is there. Many of us, me included, are disconnected from feeling. I was such a highly sensitive person that I found myself resisting feeling, to the point, though, where the emotions that were arising in the moment, or how I was perceiving the moment, would build up so much that feeling would happen to me, that becomes uncomfortable. But then also pushed me up into my head, and I would overthink. But then by learning how to feel again, and that is like meeting the moment and feeling what is arising in the moment, then it drops us into the present moment. And so how do we be in the present moment? The exercise we did at the beginning is one of the tools that can drop you into the moment really quickly. And the more we're in the moment, the more we connect to the seed of potential that we all have within. And we all have a reason for being here, to express and become. But we can't know that when we're lost in our conditioned reality. And so capacity building is something that we focus on. Meditation is one of those tools that help build capacity to observe the mind. Steve talked about Qigong is another tool, yoga. Like, there's a whole range of different practices that we can lean on that help build our capacity to be more of that still aware I am presence. Pattern breaking, the programs, the code that we're running that contract us into our story. How do we heal that? And then exploring paradigm shifting, like what is really truly possible when we step outside of our conditioned reality, when we realize that all of this, our experience here, is conditioned. And as we move into virtual worlds, metaverse, then we realize who has had an experience of virtual reality, VR? it's so immersive. Like one of the ones that I like to put, I had my kid here yesterday, but one of the ones I like to put people into is Richie's Plank experience. It's actually a company out of Brisbane, but essentially it's you go into an elevator and you get shot up 60 floors. And then when the door opens, there's a plank out. And the intention then is to walk out on the plank, and you can hear the wind and you can hear the helicopters chopping around, and you look down and like literally you're 60 floors up is what it looks like. And then you've got to walk out onto the plank. It's it feels surreal. It's so immersive. And as the technology becomes increasingly more sophisticated, as we know, Mark Zuckerberg's spending $10 billion a year building out his version of a metaverse. And then, like the progression of technology, and soon enough, it's going to be indistinguishable from reality, these virtual worlds. And so, we explore like what are some paradigm shifting experiences that help us to break free of existing conditioning and see the world of possibilities beyond what we've been led to believe. So we focus on meditation, we focus on sleep and recovery. We're going to drop in on sleep and recovery today. Pattern breaking, forgiveness is a big one as well. Like unless we're able to forgive ourselves and learning how to forgive and forgive others, but then we're still caught in our story of who we think we are. And it pulls us out of this aware presence. And beliefs and habits. How do we shift our beliefs? And so we'll talk a little bit about beliefs and habits on the back end on day 5, because they're really powerful as well. What we learn is beliefs are really what we want them to be. They're loosely based on fact, and facts change all the time. And really, most of our beliefs that we hold consciously and unconsciously are based on the opinions of the caregivers that come before us and the media that we consume. And really, beliefs are what we want them to be. And then how do that then support us to be the person that we want to be? What habits do we need to then adopt? And where are our beliefs out of alignment? Where are how we think about ourselves out of alignment to our habits? And where are our habits out of alignment from us really becoming or expressing our seed of potential? And for me, that's what this whole consciousness hacking thing is about, is like becoming what we're here to become and feeling the energy and feeling connected and feeling whole. And then what is the upper limit of that? What is the upper limit of infinity? There is no upper limit. And so how do we become more infinite in this human experience? And for me, it gets increasingly exciting when we look into the next 20 years and where technology is taking us, particular artificial intelligence, and helping us to see and experience things that we can't even imagine now. I'm not sure to what extent you've tuned into, but it's worth looking at the conversations with Ray Kurzweil and Max Tegmark and the likes, where we talk about a technological singularity in the next, 2045. We're headed towards this point where technology's intelligence will surpass ours, become super intelligent. And they call it a singularity. There's a singularity at the beginning of the Big Bang, a singularity at the middle of a black hole. They call them singularities because we can't see beyond them. We can't see what's in the middle of the black hole. We can't see beyond the Big Bang, although that's questionable at the moment. And that this technological singularity at 2045, we can't see beyond that because technology will be evolving so quickly that we can't even imagine what the world will look like. And that's why people like Max Tegmark, Elon Musk, and Steve Wozniak and the like have put out an open letter for a 6-month pause on the development of technology to make sure that we do this right, because it has the huge potential to have negative impacts on humanity, in that we become an irrelevant species on the planet because technology, we haven't coded it and set it up in the right way. And all we have to do is look at our current system of growth at all costs, and how that impacts on the planet, and how we treat each other. Yeah, that's the biggest concern for me, is our current system is it's fundamentally flawed, and we're building that into these technologies. My hope is that technology can help bring us out of that, but I can't help but feeling like there's going to be some hurt coming on. Like, we don't want to have down periods, where we don't want to have growth, because that negatively impacts on our lifestyle. And again, if we solely identify with our story, then we're going to suffer. But when we're more connected in that felt sense of I am the observer, then the external circumstances can change, because you know how to find wholeness. It's not through things, it's not through the story of who you think you are. It's in that sense of being alive, and just being connected to that which is all around you. And so any change that happens over the next 20 years won't impact you on as much. And so for me, this is the importance of this work leading into the next 20 years. The opportunity is become infinite. If we do it right, the opportunity, if we don't do it right, is more suffering in ways that we can't, or even extinction for the human race. And that may sound fantastical, but it's why Max Tegmark, Elon Musk have drafted this letter saying, hey, we need to pause right now. So it's real.
Do you think anybody's actually going to pause?
Well, I've seen Samsung actually put out an announcement saying that they're pausing. They're pausing because it's a race. It's a race off a cliff. You know, like the race is to build super, like AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is then super artificial general intelligence. But it's a lose-lose. You know, like if we don't do this properly, we're basically on a race to build something that has the potential to wipe out humanity. And so it's like they're bringing this to light. It's like, well, we need to stop. But they're also understanding that our current system, you know, these companies are answerable to shareholders, and they need to be, you know, winning. And that's why they say, hey, we understand that you're in this race. We understand the current system that we're in, but can we all just pause and make sure that we're building, you know, effective regulation? And so that everybody's playing then by the same rules, so that we're building something that's actually going to help humanity and not, you know, enslave it or kill us. Terminator, Matrix, kind of things. Yeah. And so what for our point of view, like as individuals, it's like, for me, it's all right, well, that's what's happening. It brings it back to the work that I can do, is to really be as awake and as aware as I can be leading into this. Thanks, Jen, for the update. I appreciate that. Yeah, and so that's, for me, it's then just about being as connected to the energy, connected to the flow, and optimizing myself as much as I can, because I feel like there's an opportunity in this, to be awake. And by awake, I mean not just contracted and stuck in my story and in suffering, but to be more of the observer, connected to the energy. And then when the time comes, like, how can technology help us to explore ourselves in ways that we can't even imagine? Like, for me, like, that's what I'm excited for. And if it doesn't go that way, well, then, you know, I'm in the best position that I can be. Because ultimately, the more time we spend in the I am, stillness, we realize we can't really die anyway. This is all just a game that we're playing. But that's a deeper story for another day. So looking at sleep, like, again, it's hard to be, if we're not sleeping effectively. One of the things, like, we're working with people, like, we can kid ourselves how well we're doing in the waking state, but a lot of dysfunction shows up in our sleep. And if we're not tracking it, then we can't optimize it, we can't change it. And the beauty of the human body is that it responds really quickly, and it bounces back. And, if we put it under pressure because we need to, we've got deadlines and we don't get much sleep one night, and then we're up early and we're working hard, then, the body will, contract in its own way. And we can look at what that looks like in a moment with data. But then, it bounces back and finds its relative level of homeostasis. But the thing is, where it becomes a problem, though, is if it day on day on day on day. And I have my background, I spent a decade in the startup innovation space, and I see a lot in the startup space, people pushing too hard, too long. And what happens is it becomes chronic, and the body then doesn't bounce back. And you're looking at chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And so, then it's harder to come back from there. And so it's important to be paying attention to our sleep and optimizing it, is what I'm saying. And beyond just having effective sleep, then there's the opportunity to, explore dreams, to explore altered states in dreams, the hypnagogic state where we transition out of sleep. We looked at this yesterday. It's like a map. We move through the same brainwave states when we're awake as when we're asleep, but it's bordered by unconsciousness on either side. I thought it was really interesting. It's like, wow, we live in this container which has got unconsciousness on both sides. It would be so cool to be able to explore beyond unconsciousness. And it turns out we can, lucid dreaming in the sleep state, deep meditation, psychedelics in the waking state enable us to experience beyond unconsciousness. But looking at, like, sleep, there's the opportunity, like, there's different types of states. Like the hypnagogic state is that transitionary state as we're just going into sleep. Delta is like the deep dreamless sleep. We're going to talk about that in a moment. REM sleep is more of an active sleep, so it's closer to the awake. It's sort of low beta, and alpha. The interesting thing about the body that I found quite profound, I'd be interested to see what you guys think of this as well. The body can't tell the difference between what is imagined or is real. So much so that when we're dreaming, the body has to paralyze, the brain paralyzes the body, called muscle atonia, so that we don't get up and act out our dreams. And for me, it's like, why did we evolve with that nuance? Like, you think that would have just been that we would paralyze, the brain would have, through evolution, known that we were dreaming or asleep. But it's almost like we have evolved to experience virtual worlds as real. And so as we move into this period of worlds within worlds within worlds within these virtual realities, it's almost like we've evolved for that to happen. Yeah, because the body gets paralyzed when we're dreaming. So I'm going to go through it just into the metrics in just a moment, but just wanted to highlight, like, what couple of ways that we track sleep is the Oura Ring. I know, Michelle, you got one. I think it's a great piece of kit. I can get $50 US off if anyone is interested. Fitbit's a cheaper option. We also integrate data from Fitbit, which is cool. So if you've got a Fitbit, we can link that up to the platform. So we're increasingly adding others like Samsung and Garmin, but we're not quite there yet. But I just wanted to sort of show you like what the dashboard. I know for you guys, most of the dashboards will look pretty blank, but this is kind of like what it looks like once you start using it. And we pulled through data through movement, like number of steps is one of the key things that we measure. Just helps with knowing when you're sedentary. You can see here, like I get so caught up in my computer during the week that I often don't move that much. So it's a good reminder for me. Even though I train at the gym 5 days a week, I'm still not moving as much as I probably should. So getting out and walking more is a habit. Like this is what this data is showing me if I was coaching me. But then looking at, we track total sleep. 6.5 hours is the minimum dose. So once we get on top of sleep and you go sleep being effective, then we can start optimizing. And for me, I'm optimizing for 6.5 hours sleep a night because that's the minimum that I need. But having enough deep sleep and enough REM sleep. And you kind of want about, an hour and 20 plus deep sleep and REM sleep each night. And deep is where we go into the delta brain frequency. So it's a really slow brain frequency. And human growth hormones released, and so the body regenerates. And so it's really, really important. And I'll show you some examples of other people that are on the platform and they're not getting effective deep sleep. And if that's the case, again, it's okay if you have a late night here and there for that to be the case. But if it's chronic day after day after day, we're actually shortening our health span and shortening our lifespan. And it affects our ability to show up and be present in the present moment because essentially it can lead to, chronic disease. And the beauty of wearable tech and measuring this is that we're shifting from a healthcare system, which is trying to treat disease after it's become chronic, to a wellness system where we're looking at our lead indicators and going, hey, something's not quite right here. We need to change. And generally it's changing behavior and changing the patterns. It's like healing those patterns, changing our habits so that we don't get sick. We're ahead of the curve. And so we're moving into a wellness system. And this is one of the opportunities with this sort of technology. And REM sleep's important as well because it's like memory consolidation. It's where we actively dream. And so when we're tracking dreams, recording dreams, like I like to record my dreams each night. I do it most nights. I have pen and paper beside my bed. There's a lot of insights that we get from dreams sure, there's memory consolidations through the day and I can see that, but there's also glimpses of the future that I see as well. Things that'll happen in my dreams that then show up in my reality. Carl Jung is one of the famous psychologists, suggests it's a direct link to our unconscious as well. So great for understanding where we're holding unresolved emotional trauma. And so it's one of the things that we look at as part of a whole. So the opportunity is to track dreams. We also look at, let me just quickly show you a couple of others. I won't show you their names, but another one I want to show you. This is an example of someone, like they're not getting enough deep sleep. And this is, chronic. They've actually got burnout, like chronic fatigue. So they're coming back from that. But you can see here, this is negatively impacting on their lifespan and their health span. Another example of somebody else. And so there's interventions that we can apply to help with that. And sometimes that requires biotesting. So we recommend getting a biotest done. Whether it's a spit test to test cortisol levels and melatonin production, because sometimes, our cortisol and melatonin can get messed up. They're the key hormones that we have that influence our circadian rhythm, our wake and sleep cycle. And if we're drinking too many stimulants and we're pushing too hard into the night, well then we're increasing cortisol when we should be increasing melatonin. And and again, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days is fine, but if you're doing that day on day on day on day, it becomes chronic. And so it's important to be aware of that. The other thing is we track is resting heart rate and heart rate variability. If we look at mine here, resting heart rates shows how fit, like not how fit, but how hard the heart has to work to pump blood around the body in beats per minute. And so depends on your age and your level of fitness influences that. But if you're have an exceptionally high resting heart rate, it means your heart's having to work harder. And if you only get so many beats of that heart in a lifetime, then you're kind of wearing it out. And so what we're looking at this as it was one of the indicators, like how hard is your heart having to work, and what are the things that can influence that. You see here, like I fast from Saturday evening at 7 until Monday at 11. So it's a 40-hour fast pretty much every week. And you can see how that impacts on my body. My resting heart rate comes down, my heart rate variability comes up. And so what heart rate variability is, it measures how stressed our autonomic system is. And so within a heartbeat, so there's 60 beats in a minute, it doesn't beat like one beat every second. There's variability in that heartbeat. It might be like boom, 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 boom. And what creates that variability is two competing branches of our autonomic system: the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, ease, flow, and sympathetic, which is fight, flight. And with so many like micro stresses on us, like particularly on social media, and there's so many things putting stress on our system that it can increase the level of the sympathetic. And so what happens is, if like historically, you were out and there was a predator chasing you, you wouldn't want the parasympathetic, rest and just look around, look at the flowers, kind of feel, because you just want to get the F out of there. And so it takes over. It's like boom, 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 boom. And so there's less variability in your heartbeats when the sympathetic is pumping, which is the fight, flight, stress response. So it increases cortisol as well. And so when you have a low variability, it means you've got higher sympathetic, so higher stress in your autonomic system. And so we track that. And so when we look at, again, some of these examples, this is the person with chronic fatigue. You can see that they're in a very, and it is individual, but this is really low. So there's low variability comparative to their resting heart rate. And so their autonomic system, their system's under stress. And so we can see this, and again, we can recommend tests and interventions. This person here has, it's like, and then we look at day to day, what are the things that actually negatively impact on our resting heart rate and heart rate variability? If we look at mine, having a late meal, like I do an 16-8, so fast 16 hours, intermittent fasting during the day. So I usually finish eating at 7. But this day here, I ate later, and it negatively, and I normally go to bed at 8. So if I eat too late and and then go to bed, well, then it's not good for the body and negatively impacts. It creates stress. Alcohol creates stress. There's lots of different things that can create stress, and we can track that. And again, it's about then using that data to shape our behaviors and shape how we're showing up. Any questions on that?
What do you use for your heart rate variability to log that or to track that?
What do I use to track it? Aura or Fitbit, they both track it as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Fitbit does.
Yeah, so this data is all being pulled from the movement, the sleep, and the recovery is being called from either you can pull it from a wearable like Fitbit, Aura. And the thing is, like, the data is one thing, but if you got the data telling you that you're not doing the right thing and you're not doing anything about it, then that can create stress. And so part of the beauty of the platform is that we creates a holistic look around what it is that you're doing. And something that I mentioned yesterday is then you're able to share this with a coach, or share this with somebody else. So you've got somebody else supporting you. And so I won't jump into any of these, but just jumping into mine, this one, for example, it's just an empty one that I've got. But if I was to click on mine, then it would then somebody else's. I'm able to see somebody like support somebody else with the dashboard. We also have subjective inputs when I'm talking about tomorrow, which is more relevant to pattern breaking and healing. So we'll go into that tomorrow, but the objective data helps tell the story. And then with that support and accountability, then it's easier to make the changes. But sometimes there's reasons why we don't make the changes because we're running like code. And so healing needs to happen. Awareness is one thing, but it doesn't change it. And so, yeah.
It's funny, when I first started wearing my Fitbit and tracking the sleep, I was getting stressed out because I wasn't getting to sleep soon enough. And it was a bit of a joke between me and my wife. It's like, shut up, I've got to get to sleep. I've got to track my sleep. I've got to get 8 hours. So it's detrimental, but it took eventually after a few days, it plateaued out and it's fine. But yeah, it's just funny.
Yeah, it can do that. It can cause stress. It can negatively impact, but at the same time, it creates awareness, and it's what we do with that awareness. Yeah. It'd be good to hook up your Fitbit if you can, man. I can send you a link to show you how to do that.
Cool. Yeah.
That way you can pull your data in and fill out your dashboard more. Ideally, getting you meditating through the platform as well. It's more like, I guess, for people that are looking to build a habit around meditation. You don't need this platform to meditate. I'm sure you've quite accomplished at meditating, but when we're learning to build consistency, it does also help build some sort of community around it as well. When we've got these sort of dashboards, co-opetition boards, I like to call them, where we're supporting each other build positive habits. We have a sleep one as well. Michelle, you're crushing it. You're leading that.
I do sleep. Like, I bought the Aura Ring because I was becoming concerned about my sleep, because I'd be awake for 3 hours. Not just my age, but I am going through perimenopause. So I'd be awake for hours. I'm like, how could I function? And then I'd get the Aura Ring. It says I get 90% sleep. So I de-stressed on that level, but then I'd see my HRV. And I'm like, I can never figure out how to get my HRV up. I can't figure out the pattern yet.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. It could be healing that needs to happen. It can be, we can look at practical stuff like late meals, like making sure we're abstaining from alcohol as much as possible. What are the other things?
Definitely. If I have one drink, my HRV will drop. So I rarely drink. If I meditate, sometimes the HRV will plummet during meditation. So there's definitely something subconscious going on there.
The thing with HRV, it's best not, I know Aura tracks it in real time, but that's not really indicative of like the autonomic system. It is in that moment, but it's best measured as an average over time and taken at rest. So during the night when you're sleeping is the best time to measure it as a point, because otherwise it's going to fluctuate all the time because their body's responding to lifestyle. One of the things that we've found through our mastermind that we have that really helps is resonance breathing as you're going to sleep. So focusing, which is like 5 to 6 breaths a minute as you're going to sleep. And we've seen a positive uplift in resting heart rate variability as an average over time. And obviously then it can look towards like how active we are. Like, so we look at diet, we can look at exercise, we can look at meditation. It becomes like lots of different data points that we can look at and drop in on and go, all right, which one of these is the biggest level that we can pull to try to influence this. But we can talk about that when we catch up one-on-one.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I wanted to share right breathing with you. I know we're on time. Is that all right if we go for another five minutes or so? Let's do a quick meditation. If you have the platform accessible, one of the challenges with the platform at the moment is that with the meditations, it doesn't play natively in the background because it's not actually an app. We're still a web app. We'll create it as an app soon enough, but for now it's just still a web app. So if you're on your phone, I'm interested to see whether you can actually do it. But let's set it for 10 minutes. If we can go for 10 minutes, is that cool?
Yeah.
I sent out a link of how to set up little shortcuts on your phone to go directly to it. The invitation is to jump into the platform and set it for 10 minutes because we might as well log it while we're doing it. And I'm just going to guide us through a 10-minute right breathing pattern. I like to do the right breathing in conjunction with sleep because I find also really focusing in on your breath and giving your full attention to your breath really is a powerful way to get to sleep if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, unable to get to sleep or unable to sleep because at the beginning of the night. Because like we were pointing to here, by slowing the breath, by focusing on the breath, it starts slowing these brain waves and it will drop us down into sleep. In the same way we use breath as a meditation to slow our brain waves and go down into our alpha theta states for as part of meditation, we can use the same principle to go into the sleep cycle. Right, and so yeah, I normally don't worry about any of these sounds, but you can, and you just press 10 minutes. We'll do a quick releasing tension exercise. This meditation series is a Zen meditation practice that I was taught about 15 years ago. And it starts, the first essence is releasing tension, then right breathing, and then into observing the mind. So we build the foundation so that we're able to more effectively be able to sit and observe the mind. It's hard to actually observe the mind when we've got lots of tension in the body. It's hard to observe the mind when our breath is short and shallow. And we've actually, our biology, when we're breathing short and shallow, we're breathing into the top part of our chest, which is putting us into a fight, flight, sympathetic response. But we're breathing slow and deep. It stimulates that parasympathetic response, which is more flow, ease, meditation. I added into that releasing emotion, which we'll do tomorrow. But then we move into day 4 on Thursday. We'll start doing, then observe the mind. So these are all beautiful mindfulness techniques that help to get us to the ultimate goal, which is to be the observer. All right. So any questions before we jump in? Cool. All right, so we'll begin. So closing down our eyes, we'll just start with a quick releasing tension phase. So I'm going to invite you to bring tension into the body. And we're going to hold that tension for about 20, 30 seconds. And we do this to over-accentuate the tension that we have in the body so that when we come to release it, we can break through the natural tension barrier that we have and move into a deeper phase of relaxation. As we move into become more accomplished with this practice, this is like a training wheel, we let it go. But I find it to be quite a powerful practice, all the same. So we're just holding the tension, not so that we're uncomfortable, but just so that you can feel a subtle tension. So it's like curling of the toes, pulling on the skin, pulling on the pelvic floor, all the way up, curling your hands, pulling on the skin on the top of the head. And then releasing now slowly over the next 20 seconds. So little bit by little bit. The whole body, all at the same time. Not so that, so we're just taking it little bit by little bit. So it's like a flower opening to meet the sun, or a butterfly opening its wings for the first time. So really letting go now. And so we're going to do a quick scan of the body from the top of the head, muscles around our eyes. Just moving swiftly down through into the jaw. And so it's like a wave of relaxation. We're just letting go as we move up through the face, down through the scalp, down through the back of the neck, down through the arms. Then back up through the arms into the tops of the shoulders and chest, down through the stomach and lower back. It's like a letting go. Down through the glutes, quadriceps and hamstrings, shins and calves, down through the feet, pushing any tension, any anxiousness out through the feet and into whatever is connecting you to the earth. Really letting go now. So we won't do the melting chocolate today. We're just going to bring our attention to our breath. And so just becoming aware of the breath, ideally breathing in through the nose. And we're following that flow of air in. We're breathing down deep into, and we're breaking the lungs up into 3 sections. But you can exhale in through the nose as well. And so as you catch the next inhalation, feeling that lower section, so the tummy will expand. The middle section, the ribs will expand, and the upper section, the chest will expand. And then on the exhalation, we're contracting from that lower section, the tummy will pull in, the middle section, the ribs will drop, and the upper section, the chest will drop, and then we're holding for a moment. Catching the next inhalation, breathing down deep once again into the lower section, middle section, and upper section. And pausing for a moment. And contracting from that lower section, middle section, and upper section. So we're building this slow rhythmic breath, breathing all the way in 3 stages, down deep into the diaphragm. All the way out. In my experience, it can take a few times, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to build this rhythm. But when you get it, you get it. So we're building this slow rhythmic breath. Call it right breathing. So we can put a count on the inhalation. Let's do 4 seconds on the inhalation, 1 second pause, 4 seconds on the exhalation, 1 second pause. So that becomes 10 seconds, so 6 breaths a minute. So wherever you find yourself in that cycle, see if you can add a count. 4, 1, 4, 1. It's also known as box breathing. They're kind of breathing in a box shape. So we're giving our full attention to our breath. If you find your attention wanders, you just gently bring it back to your breath. When you find comfort in that rhythm, you can extend it out further. So 4, 2, 4, 2. If you have discomfort breathing through your nose, then by all means, your mouth is okay. But the nose is ideal. And if your attention wanders, just gently bring it back. Ongoing pendulation into thought and then becoming aware and then bringing it back is a really powerful thing. So if you find yourself on your attention wanders, it's totally okay. Just bring it back and refocus, recommit. Bring your attention to it as fully as you can and holding your attention on this practice. If you desire to, you can extend it out even further, 5, 2, 5, 2. If that's too much, by all means, stay where you are. So the breath is we can directly impact on our central nervous system, the autonomic system, our HRV, and that's why like breathing at nighttime before bed can influence our heart rate variability score. This is a box style breathing, we call it right breathing. If you wanted to play with resonance breathing, then it's just an even number on the inhalation, even number on the exhalation, with no pause at the beginning or end. But the breath is a really powerful tool. This is one simple mechanism, one simple way to use it to slow our brain waves and drop more into the stillness. There are a whole range of others, from holotropic breath work to Wim Hof breathing. I'm about to do some Wim Hof breathing before jumping into the ice bath, which is a more active style of breathing. But for now, we tell ourselves we're about to complete. And then just slowly stretching out into the fingers and toes, arms and legs. Stretching out as if like a cat, moving slowly so as not to spill calm that you've created. And we'll see here, like I did a 40-minute set earlier, but you'll see that 10 minutes with a refresh will get added to the platform. And so that's just a way for us to support. And if you're a little bit competitive, it's a way to get listed on the co-opetition board as well. Co-opetition, supporting each other to build positive habits. Any questions before we wrap?
Yeah, it's really good.
It's a treat to spend time with you all. I hope to see you all again live tomorrow. Hey, Valeria, how are you? Nice to see you. Yeah. Yeah, big love. I'll send out the recording. And if you have any questions, Stevie, if you want to get your Fitbit set up, I'll send you an email anyway. That'd be great to do that. Valeria, if you've got a Fitbit or an Oura Ring, we can connect in it. If you haven't, that's okay. I'll send out some information today on tech and purchasing. I know I mentioned that yesterday for the Muse. I neglected to do that, but I will do it today. All right, big love to you all. Tomorrow's a fun session and not fun as well because we start looking at patterns and processing and can be poking around in our shit a little bit, but it's where a lot of really powerful work can happen. So, all right, big love to you all.